Greetings and salutations, the second part of Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Hello.
We're bringing you today a new unit for our Greek game, which are Platean Hoplites. You often see hoplites with all different interesting shield designs and stuff. It was only a few states that did that. Most states had their own emblem on their shields. And these are Plateans, and they have nice orange shields with, or either an orange shield with this weird square thing you can see with the arms sticking off.
Tic-tac-toe.
Or the crow. Interesting?
Yes.
Yeah, I quite like it. It's certainly catchy. Bit of an odd shield design, and only really made sense to Plateans. Everyone else probably thought they were really weird and couldn't draw a proper square.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, with the edges of the square coming off.
Really lame.
Yeah, but do you know what it actually is?
What?
It's a fire, bonfire. The way they used to make fires is you would put two sticks across, and then you would put another two sticks across in the opposite way, and then you would keep building it up with sticks like that, and that is what that represents. That's quite cool, isn't it?
They could have said that.
Well, they did. They put it on their shield. Oh, see? It's there on their shield.
Yeah, but you could have said it like, explain what it meant, because would you know that if you didn't look it up? If you saw that on the battlefield,
You'd think it was a very badly drawn square.
very badly drawn square.
Someone having to go at noughts and crosses who isn't really putting the effort in.
What if the Persians fought?
They probably thought they were playing noughts and crosses.
Yes, I said.
Yeah. If I fire an arrow in the middle one, then I'm going to try and get a diagonal. That sort of thing, yeah. Maybe that's where noughts and crosses comes from. Anyway, these are Plateans. I have done the uniforms in a sort of drab, off yellow colour, off yellowy linen colour. There's a few different uniforms, and the leather strips are multiple colours, green and orange, because I just thought it looked really cool. And that's the rear of the figure there. So he's there. Okay, what are the shields? The shields are a fire. The reason that particular fire was important is whenever they wanted to find something out, they want to ask the gods, right? And in order to send a message to the gods, they would build a huge fire out of these sticks, and cross sticks and cross sticks, and inside it they would put a volunteer, usually a young woman, who volunteered, right? And sometimes they chose it by lot, and then they set fire to it.
Like burning people in wicker men.
Yeah, same thing. And then the girl who got burnt to death would then go and tell the gods whatever it was you were supposed to tell the gods.
Like the Celts, they asked the priest to tell something to God and then kill the priest.
Yeah.
Because the priest got a time.
Yeah, so if you ever had a Celtic priest, you walked up to him and said, "I've got a question for God," they'd go, "Ah!" and run away. Because you were about to garrote them and throw them into a bog. Yeah, that's... What a brilliant religion. It's a great turnover of priests.
A test of faith.
Yeah. The Greeks solved this problem of running out of priests by setting fire to normal people. Either chosen by lottery or volunteered. So that's an interesting one, isn't it?
It sure is.
Yeah, all cultures are equal, aren't they?
So what's the eagle?
It's not an eagle, it's a crow. Right, another thing, the interesting thing the Plateans used to do, they used to hack animals to death and then hang the body parts from trees. And then the crows would come into the trees, and depending on how the crows flocked, the priest could tell what the gods wanted.
Right.
It's great religion, isn't it? It's awesome. These people are great. It did cause trouble to the Spartans, because when the Spartans invaded Plataea, they usually siege equipment. You didn't take the whole battering ram with you, or the whole ballista with you. You just kept the working parts, like the metal bits, and you took them off the one you had, put them in a cart, took them to a battlefield, and then you chopped local trees down and used the wood in the new place to build a new siege engine. Does that make sense? Have I gone too quickly? Yeah. The Spartans didn't like the fact that the Plateans had rotting corpses hanging from trees, and they kind of thought it was bad luck. And so they had to actually drag their engines the whole way from Sparta to Platea. and the wheels fell off and most of them broke. Just an interesting factoid, which is probably why the Spartans couldn't break the siege easily. Even though they were fighting Plateans, they were just normal people. And the Spartans were awesome.
Guess so.
Yeah. Plataea had the unfortunate circumstance of being in between a nation very heavily allied to Sparta, the Athenians and the Thebans. And that is a really bad position to be in geographically, because it means you have three of the most violent and invading type groups. And also, each three group used to go to war with each other all the time. So the Athenians were always going to war with the Thebans were going to war with the Spartans were going to war with the Athenians, and they're all fighting each other. And often they would march through Plataea in order to do it. So the Plataeans were in a really bad geographical situation. They live in a long, wide valley with hardly anything useful in it. They did have a nice big fortified fortress. Other than that, that was about it. So they were in trouble, which is probably why they were so religious. They were hoping the gods would help. And they got really worried that the Thebans kept invading their country, because the Thebans at this point were really bad. And they sent a messenger to Sparta and asked the Spartans to occupy their country, to take Plataea under the Spartan wing, to protect it. But the Spartans said, well, that's great, we could take you in, we could protect you, and you could become a protected state. Unfortunately, you're 2 days' march from our army. If we heard you were being invaded, if you were being invaded and you would send a messenger to Sparta, it would take half a day to get here. Half a day to get here.
It'd be all by them.
Then we'd have to raise an army, and then we would have to march. So you're looking 2 to 3 days before the Spartans could arrive. By the time that happens, all your women and children have been carried into slavery, and all the men are dead. And all your sheep and cows have been stolen, and your houses are on fire. So we can't really help you. But just over the border is a Athenian garrison. There's Athenian troops who could very quickly. Athens was closer than Sparta, and the Athenians would be in a much better position to help you. Even though at the time the Spartans hated the Athenians. They were nominally at war with the Athenians at the time, but they understood that the Athenians were actually better people to help the Plataeans. So they went to the Athenians and said, please, will you come and occupy our country? And the Athenians said, we're on our way, because they were Athenians. And the Athenians turned up in the capital Plataea, and a huge Theban army, knowing the Athenians were coming, didn't like the idea that Athens moving its border 50 miles closer to the Theban border, in fact being on the Theban border, so the Thebans sent an army. And they arrived. At this point, the two armies are facing off against each other, and then the Corinthians arrived, who themselves were allied to the Spartans, but they were also allied to the Plataeans. They arrived and said, right, everyone stop fighting, right? Let's sort this out in an amicable manner and not kill each other, right? Let's just talk about this. And so the Athenians came up with this idea that the Plataeans would give up a bit of their country up to the river to the Thebans, meaning that Thebes would now have a little buffer zone, a little demilitarized zone between Athens and Thebes, and he would also get the fertile land along the river. And the Athenians would have the other half. And the Athenians said, well, we agree to that. We don't, whatever happens, we're gaining territory, we don't care.
Yeah, the Plataeans lose territory.
Yes, but at this point, the Plataeans didn't have a choice. Two massive empires were deciding how they were going to divide up their kingdom. The Plataeans were just sat watching. They didn't have a choice. And the Thebans said, yeah, actually that's a good deal too. So the Athenians all packed up, started marching home, and then the backstabbing Thebans attacked them while they were on the march, thinking, hey, this is an opportunity to defeat the Athenians and therefore capture the whole of Plataea. Unfortunately, the Athenians won the battle. they defeated the Thebans. Not only that, they pushed them all the way out of Plataea. And then they picked a line within the border of Thebes and said, this is now the front line between our two countries. So in the end, Plataea actually gained territory at the end of it. And Athens gained a huge amount of arable land which it could get the resources from. So it worked out great for, well, everyone except the Thebans. But then again, the Thebans shouldn't have been so backstabby after all, should they? But that's an interesting story on the poor old Plataeans. During the the Persian invasion, the Plataeans sent troops to fight alongside the Athenians at the Battle of Marathon. They sent quite a few soldiers, about 1,000 soldiers they sent, which was basically every single able-bodied man in Plataea, because it was that important. And also probably because the Athenians occupied their country. Maybe that's also a... If you know in the future the Athenians are always going to have an army to help, it doesn't mean it means you can expend your own troops. Anyway, they came to the help. The Spartans were late, of course, so missed the battle. And the Athenians very much liked the fact that these guys had turned up to help. So they really did sort of have respect for the Plataeans. Later on, when the Second Greco-Persian War happened, the whole of Plataea, more or less the whole of Plataea, was overrun by Persia. But again, the Plataeans sent troops to help King Leonidas. And those troops fought alongside King Leonidas with their general, and that is another story. But later on, as the war went on, it was actually the guy we're about to talk about in our next video, called Arimanestos. Arimanestos, is that how I pronounce it? He was the one who came up with the battle plan to fight the Battle of Plataea, which is where the Persian army was finally defeated, and the Athenians and the Greeks won the Persian War. So Plataea was a very important bit of territory, and it ended up being the place where the Persians were finally defeated. Because it was a big wide open plain, and it was where the Persians felt happiest fighting, in a big wide open plain. Unfortunately, they lost.
Of course, like this roundabout one.
Yeah. What have we got to say about Plataeans? They carry a dory just like any other troops. They also had the coppice sword, was the primary sword they used, which is the sword which is more like an axe, this one. This sword, actually it is an axe. It looks like a sword, it's actually an axe. And it's designed to hack limbs off. And how you would typically fight is you would have the guys in the front rank would fight with their sword, or their axe in this case, and the guys behind would jab through with their spears. That is generally how they actually fought in real life. Steadfast troops. Yeah, that's about it really. There's not much else to say about them. So, what do you think of them?
Well, apart from the shields, decent. What's the stats like?
Unbelievably average.
That's like...
They're standard people. They're just normal in combat. They haven't got a trained army. All these guys are normal household people. They're no standing army, so they're just normal people. That when there's a war, you just grab your grandfather's shield off the wall above the fireplace, and grab your spear, and then go off to fight. So not trained soldiers. Although they would, living where they lived, they would certainly have seen combat throughout their lives. Questions? Any more questions?
I don't think so.
No?
Oh yeah, but what's a command like? Because if you're not a war nation, they haven't got an army.
Their commanders were elected, I believe. Just like the Athenians elected their commanders. So
okay.
They would elect a commander. I would assume the best men for the job would put themselves forward to be chosen, and they would say, I fought this battle here, and I fought this battle here, and I won one of them. Therefore, you should vote for me. And I would assume that's how you did it. Some areas had kings and stuff, and so the kings would lead. Hereditary kings and stuff like that, always a bad idea. Because just if you've got one really good king, it doesn't mean his son's going to be any good. Because they have different life experience.
Yeah, France.
I don't watch it. But, yeah, different life experience. What makes one man great does not make the second man great. Marcus Aurelius and Commodus. Marcus Aurelius, a brilliant politician, a brilliant tactician. Always thought outside the box. Commodus tried to be nice.
Doesn't work.
He grew up in a nice Rome, and he preferred the games to fighting wars, whereas his father spent his entire life fighting wars. So, there you go. Anyway, that's about it for this video. You will see us in our next video. Anything else to add?
No, I think so.
So, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.